These tools are called Longbent carving tools, Longbent Gouges. Sometimes they're called salmon bend, sometimes sowback. But essentially what's happening is the curve of the blade in its length starts somewhere shortly after the shank here and works its way along. So here's a straight blade, there's a bit of shank here, and when it's a short bend, the actual shank is elongated and you have the bend at the top, just a little bend, but here you've got the shank quite short and then quite a bit of a bend. And you can see that within all these makes there's a difference in the amount of curve that you get. These are fairly old tools and you can see there's not much here that differentiates it from this one. Whereas a tool like this one over here has quite a considerable bit of bend, and these are in the middle. And even same manufacturers will give you a different bend. For example, this one is coming much more further up and this one's stopping off short. So I want to explain a little bit about what these tools will do for you as a carver, whether you should have them or not, and how to sharpen them. Here's a frog bowl that you'll find as a project elsewhere on the site. I'm just interested in this outline curve here to demonstrate how these tools work. When you've got a curve like this and you're coming into the wood, there is a point where a straight regular gouge will start binding at the back here, and you realise you need something curved. Well, in this sort of slow curve here, the long bent gouge comes into its own. You could see how this would beautifully just work its way around there, like that. But there, again, with a tight curve, you might or might not be able to do it because this might foul again. In which case you go for the short bent, the very tight curve. And that would be true even if you go into the bowl like this, or into the curve. This tool has got not enough of a curve. You can do the first bit, but then when it comes around here, it would start to chatter. And that's where you need to back to the short bend. So just moving on to another carving, again to just give you an idea, this is a little mermaid bowl that Carrie made. So we've got some very tight curves here, but we've got very low, slow curves here where the tail is. So in this place, you could use this curved tool beautifully like this. It would come down here like that. Whereas if you use the short bent gouge, you'd be swinging the handle like this. So there's something about this tool which gives you that lovely feeling as you go across. At a certain point, you wouldn't be able to get into these curves, so you go back to the short bent. And it's also useful, of course, if you want to carve into the middle here, because as we carve across, this handle here is getting in the way. You see, I can't get in enough. But with a bit of a bend, the handle's clear, and I can work this quite readily. These sweeps come in all the sweeps you can get for all the gouges, flat to curves. The same Sheffield list are all available. So that's really how they're being used, for long, slow curves. When we're sharpening a long bent gouge, forget about the whole shape of the blade itself, this curve, and just think about this cutting edge here. So the cutting edge and the bevel behind it at your normal 15 to 20 cutting angle here, and then you sharpen it like so. So whatever the curve is here, you just have to adjust. So don't think about your handle, think about here. You need only take off the wire edge on the inside. You can put a tiny little inside bevel, that will be good, but generally speaking we don't have an inside bevel on these tools, or any more than we do on the short bents. The other thing you can do is to soften that off, is you can drop this back so you're on the heel and just rub the heel over, so you get this little bit of a scoop. And in fact, if the bevel is slightly curved and following this curve here, what you're doing is you're just making more of this sort of movement like that. So as you're using these tools, what's happening is the tool goes in, then the natural curve sort of jigs itself, so you get this lovely sense of of scooping, long scooping. When you're carving with a straight gouge, you can only go so far in before you start digging up. It's just because you're pivoting on the heel here, tick, 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 like that. But what you want to do, to think about, is actually removing the heel or softening the heel here on the gouge, so that you get this natural curve that's following. So it's pivoting on the whole blade really, rather than just a point here. So it follows in through the scoop like that.